And live from the WQAQ studio at Quinnipiac University, you're listening to Infinite Sports Radio on this Tuesday evening. I'm Kenneth Gruenfelder, and we will begin shortly as to what we are going to be talking about. But for now, we're going to take a quick break, a really quick break. We're having a little skirmish trying to get in, so stick around. We'll be right back.
We're never alone. And that is our strength. Because when we're doubted, we'll play as one. When we're held back, we'll go farther and harder. If we're not taken seriously, we'll prove that wrong. And if we don't fit the sport, we'll change the sport. We know things won't always go our way.
And the world's sporting events are postponed or cancelled.
But whatever it is, we'll find a way. And when things aren't fair, we'll come together for change.
We have a responsibility
to make this world a better place.
And no matter how bad it gets, we will always come back stronger. Because nothing can stop what we can do together.
All right, and we're back here on Infinite Sports Radio after that brief break. A lot of stuff was going on before we started. We were locked out of I was locked out of the studio. We were able to get in. So there was that, and then Ben arrived a little bit later, so I wanted to make sure that he would get in and not be standing out there waiting for me to go to a go for 15 minutes and then let him in. So that's why we did a quick break. But here we are. It's been a long road. It's been a very strange, interesting, historic half a year, really. Last time we were actually in the studio was in it was like week before spring break, so like I don't know, guess of I think like March 8th was the last time we were in the studio.
It was around there, yeah. It feels like forever ago.
Yeah. So and I remember we even said, we're just going to be gone for a week, and then obviously we'll be back in the studio doing what we do. But that obviously was not the case. There's been a lot of things going on since that time. But here we are. And honestly, it's great to be back. We obviously take it day by day. We really have no idea what the future holds. But we're going to do what we do and just take it, like I said, just take it day by day. But but the good thing is that we took a very long break from sports, but then sports have come back.
We're glad that we can sit in this studio tonight, 6 feet apart, by the way, since you can't see in here. But we're just glad we can be here tonight doing a show for you guys, of course, live. Yes, this is live, not pre-recorded anymore. Infinite Sports Radio is back, baby. What can I say?
Yeah, exactly. It's just crazy because you don't really think something like what's going on right now is happening, like that could happen in terms of the pandemic. And really, as of right now, there's really no end in sight, as much as I don't want to be pessimistic about it. But, we're trying to make the most of it. And, hopefully everything works out and this whole thing ends soon, because I think a lot of people are getting very impatient and they just want to get back to their normal lives. So with that being said, I don't want to keep talking about all that stuff. Let's stick to sports. Obviously, we're going to touch upon a lot of different things, but right now we're going to highlight the NFL because obviously that's something that we're all thrilled that it's back. Obviously, in some stadiums, there was a decent amount of fans. Obviously, Thursday night, the Chiefs had about 16,000 to 17,000 fans attend their home opener, the raising of the banner. So that was good for them. At least that seemed like kind of a normal game in terms of the atmosphere with fans in the stands. But everything else, the only other team that had fans was the Jacksonville Jaguars, who beat the Indianapolis Colts 27-20. But we'll get into all the games. So I guess we'll first start with the game from Thursday night, which was, as I just said, the Houston Texans taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, with the Chiefs winning 34-20 over the Houston Texans. And, it was kind of expected that the Chiefs were going to come out and be very explosive on offense. A couple of key players to highlight, obviously Patrick Mahomes with the 3 touchdowns, I believe. And their first-round draft choice, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, getting his first touchdown. He looked really good. Looks like he's going to be the next Kareem Hunt, not, obviously with the whole domestic violence stuff, but obviously, but going to be a solid running back because obviously going into the year with Damian Williams opting out due to the coronavirus, it was going to be interesting to see who would step up and take over that role, and he delivered. And you look on the other side with the Texans, DeAndre Hopkins was missing from that offense, and you could thank Bill O'Brien. Now, obviously, David Johnson did look pretty good. He had a touchdown. He scored the first touchdown of the season. But overall, when you look at those two teams, they look like two teams going in two completely different directions. I think the Texans are destined to have a very subpar season. Their schedule doesn't get any easier from here. Next week, they take on the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Vikings. So they're looking at 0-4 right now. And the Chiefs, they picked up right where they left off. And you know what? They look like they're ready to go on another run. And we'll discuss our Super Bowl picks later on in the show because we didn't make them in our pre-recorded episode last week. So we'll do that later on in the show. But, hey, the Chiefs look pretty good. And they look like they are the team to beat right now in my mind.
Yeah, definitely, Kenny. They came out firing in this opening game Thursday night. In front of fans, like you said, 16,000 were at Arrowhead Stadium for the opening game, which is great, just to see some fans, a little bit of normalcy there. You mentioned it, Patrick Mahomes, 3 touchdowns, 211 passing yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire definitely exceeded his expectations out of the gate. 138 rushing yards with a touchdown. And the touchdown they scored, no less. It was a nice, 25, 30-yard run. Yeah. And he dodged a couple defenders in the process. So it was really good to see him come out like this in his first NFL game. Other highlights, Sammy Watkins had 82 yards off 7 catches with a touchdown. Kelsey had 6 for 50 with a touchdown. The Chiefs looked really good, and it looks like they've picked right up from where they left off last year. Of course, the Super Bowl 54 champions, and they unveiled that banner. It's too early, obviously right now to say whether Patrick Mahomes is, going to be in the likes of Peyton Manning, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, in those all-time quarterback discussions. But I tell you what, this kid is amazing to watch week in, week out. The Chiefs are going to have a great season. I'd expect 12, 13 wins out of them. They're heavy favorites against the Chargers next week, as they should be. I mean, there was really no downside to the Chiefs Thursday night, except giving up those, quote-unquote garbage time touchdowns that the Texans scored in the fourth quarter. Otherwise, that team was really firing on all ends. And, it was a great start to the season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you look at the games around the league, too, obviously the Ravens looked really good. The Pittsburgh Steelers last night looked pretty good, albeit against our Giants. But we'll touch upon that in a little bit. And just really across the league. And obviously Cam Newton making his debut with the Patriots. A lot of guys moving around in the offseason, going to different teams. Tom Brady made his debut as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer against the Saints, and that didn't really go so well, which we'll touch upon that as well. But two veteran quarterbacks that really showed everybody that, albeit with, Deshaun, when you look at Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, 2 veteran guys that really played well this past Sunday, Russell Wilson, and of course my guy Aaron Rodgers. It was honest, and let's get into Aaron Rodgers first, and then we'll touch upon Russell Wilson. I just wanted to say, obviously, last year going 13-3, talking about the Packers, going 13-3 last year, and then coming one game shy of the Super Bowl and getting absolutely destroyed by the 49ers. And really the whole year you were kind of just waiting for Rodgers to kind of break out. And there was maybe one or two games where he looked really good, but other than that, it was kind of a subpar year for him. As 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions is a down year for him. But Sunday he looked like Aaron Rodgers, and you could say, well, he was playing against a very inexperienced Minnesota Vikings secondary, which looked terrible. But you know what? A lot of Rodgers threw a lot of deep balls, and that was something that was really missing from their passing attack last year. And obviously, really, their only serviceable weapon on offense in terms of wide receivers was Davante Adams, and he missed 4 games last season. And the Packers were still able to win games, but Rodgers wasn't what you're accustomed to seeing. And, looking at the numbers, 32 for 44 for 364 and 4 touchdowns. And obviously getting guys involved, like Alan Lazard and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, these guys got to step up, because obviously Davante Adams, everybody's going to be focusing on him, and everybody's going to be focusing on Aaron Jones in the backfield, who had a pretty good game with 66 yards for a touchdown. But overall, the Packers got to fix up stuff on the defense because, giving up 34 points doesn't look good, but obviously they did dominate that game for the most part. And, hey, hopefully this continues, and this is not just one game for Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully this shows that Aaron Rodgers is back.
Yeah, Kenny, like you mentioned, the Vikings scored 24 points off the Packers' defense in the fourth quarter after what was a great first half in which they only gave up 10. But as for Aaron Rodgers, that was a great first game out of the gate for him. That's a sign that Packers fans want to see, because I don't care what anyone says, but when the Packers went out and drafted Jordan Love from Utah State, I think that lit a fire under Aaron Rodgers a little, because he's 36 years old. He's probably got 4 years left in him, maybe. It's hard to say, but this just shows to Matt LaFleur that Aaron Rodgers is not ready to give up that starting role yet, and Jordan Love's going to have to wait, because I think everyone was thinking, well, Rodgers was declining a little bit over the last couple of years, which he was, but if he can put up numbers like this on a week-in, week-out basis, obviously this is exceptional numbers. I don't think you're going to see this next week against the Lions, but Rodgers should still throw for 2 or 3 touchdowns, I think. But 43-34, and Davante Adams won 156 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Like you said, that Marquez Valdez-Scantling catch, that was probably the highlight of Rodgers' day, and overall, the Packers looked really good. And actually, let's listen to that call from Chris Myers on Fox.
In the meantime, it's 2nd and 10. And time running out in the first half. Rodgers is going deep for Valdez-Scantling. And he's got it! Into the end zone! Touchdown, Packers! Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
And those are the shot plays, being aggressive that we talked about with.
Nope, sorry. That was a great touchdown throw from Rodgers. 45 yards that pass was. It was a really great over-the-shoulder catch by Scantling. And those are the throws that you're used to seeing Aaron Rodgers make, right, Kenny?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was a breath of fresh air because, obviously the last couple of years, 2018 was a down year for them. The Packers finished 6-9-1, and last year, there was like I said, there was a couple of games where he looked like Aaron Rodgers, but that was a vintage Aaron Rodgers game, what we saw on Sunday. And you could say, well, there was no fans, the inexperienced secondary, and obviously, right now, as much as I loved seeing that performance, I got to see more, and I'm got to take that with a grain of salt and hope that continues. But if that does continue, and this is how Aaron Rodgers is going to play all season long, the Packers are going to be right there at the end. They could be one of the last couple of teams standing in the playoffs. But the defense has got to tighten up a little bit. Obviously, they suffered a couple of injuries. Kenny Clark went out earlier, their defensive tackle, which is huge. He's one of their best players on defense. One of their starting left guard, I think he is, Lane Taylor. He suffered a torn ACL, so he's out for the season. So that's kind of a huge blow on the offensive line. So next guy up, and you know what? Right now, I could sit here and say Aaron Rodgers looked good. Packers are 1-0, as opposed to our other team, which we'll get into after we touch upon this other game. Hey, let's see what happens. And obviously a game that I am really excited for in a couple of weeks is Saints-Packers. So can't wait for that. And then obviously the other veteran quarterback that did well on Sunday was Russell Wilson, completing 31 passes, going 31 of 35, 322, and 4 touchdowns. And again, another team that looked really good. And obviously with the acquisition of Jamal Adams in the secondary, sorry Jet fans that are listening, this team looks like they're destined for a run too. And obviously the secondary looks a lot, is kind of a Legion of Boom 2.0. With Adams and Quandre Diggs, who they acquired in the trade deadline last season from the Lions, and obviously having Shaquille Griffin in the secondary. Secondary is pretty good for Seattle. Now, the thing that's missing from that team is they need some edge rushers, because obviously they didn't retain Jadeveon Clowney, who's now on the Titans. But Seattle looked good, and they're going to be another team that's going to be there, and I picked them to win their division. I think they have the slight edge over the 49ers, because I'm a huge Russell Wilson fan. I don't praise him as much as I praise Aaron Rodgers, of course, but Russell Wilson is one of my favorite players in the league too. And obviously, hopefully their running backs stay healthy, because pretty much all of them got injured last season, but right before the playoffs, and they had to re-sign Marshawn Lynch, bring him back in. So hopefully everybody stays healthy for Seattle. And again, one of those teams that might be there at the end when it's all said and done.
Kenny, I totally agree about Seattle. They looked really good against Atlanta. They surrendered 25 points, but that didn't matter because Russell Wilson threw 4 touchdowns. 38-25 was the final in Atlanta. I think Seattle can definitely beat out San Francisco in the NFC West. And as we know, the Arizona Cardinals showed up big time on Sunday. They actually defeated the 49ers 24-20 in San Fran this weekend. And, I mean, honestly, Kyler Murray, he's going to be a better quarterback this year for the Cardinals. You look at his stat line, he wasn't great, 26 of 40, 230 yards with a touchdown and a pick. But he got 91 yards on the ground. He scored a rushing touchdown by himself. Kenyon Drake had 60 yards with a touchdown. And DeAndre Hopkins, of course, this is a big headline for the Cardinals season, that, 151 receiving yards on Sunday. And that's just numbers to come for this guy, because the Texans gave him up to get David Johnson. And the Cardinals won this trade, the D-Hop trade. And DeAndre Hopkins is one of the top 5 wide receivers probably right now in the game. And the Cardinals, they're really gonna show up this year, I think. If they can go 9-7, I think there's a good chance they can get a wild card spot. But the NFC is gonna be really competitive this year. I mean, everyone in the NFC West, this is gonna be the division to watch. The Rams beat the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. The Cardinals upset the 49ers. The Seahawks beat the Falcons. Everybody right now in that division, except for San Fran, is 1-0. And it's going to come down to Week 17 probably, but this is a great sign. I'm happy for the Cardinals because they haven't been good, in a little while. Last time they were obviously at the top of their game was when they reached Super Bowl 43 against Pittsburgh back in 2009. But this is a great sight to see for them. The NFC West, it's going to be a playground. It's up for grabs.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely one of the best divisions in the conference. And like I've been saying the past couple of months on when we would do our pre-recorded Skype shows, there's a lot of good teams this year. It is jam-packed with talent. I mean, you look at a couple of teams and you could say, well, actually after Sunday I can't really say that because of the Jaguars getting that huge win over the Indianapolis Colts, which was an upset, and the Washington football team. I didn't say the other one, the other word, the other phrase, the other name. Getting the upset over the Philadelphia Eagles, 27-17, coming back from 17-0, which last year they were up 17-0 against the Eagles, and the Eagles came back and won that game. And then this year they did it to the Eagles. So, it's crazy. A lot of twists and turns from this week one. And another game that we want to highlight is obviously, like I briefly mentioned, Tom Brady making his debut for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Still can't believe that's actually a thing, that he's on another team.
Who would have thought?
And first drive, obviously, went right down the field, scored a touchdown, and it looked like it was going to be a long night for the Saints. But the Saints were able to settle in. Breeze was okay, but the Saints ultimately won the game 34-23. And for the most part, other than that first drive, the Saints dominated that game. Their defense dominated that game. The Bucs defense looked good as well. So it was mostly was a defensive battle for most of the game. But Brady, obviously the first drive looked really good, and then after that it kind of just all spun out of control, and they weren't really able to recapture that momentum from that first drive. And obviously he had 2 touchdowns in the game, threw 2 picks, and you could argue that those 2 picks were, if not the first one, you could say Mike Evans ran the wrong route. Definitely the second one, the pick 6 to Janoris Jenkins. Obviously, it's the first game, and, Brady wasn't well protected on Sunday. They surrendered a couple of sacks on Sunday. But, again, it's only the first game, and I think that they're going to be able to settle in, and I think Brady's still going to have a good season. But like we said last week when we did our pre-recorded show, I think this is the Saints division. And I know, again, it's week one, but this game could definitely have decided the division already. But right now, the Saints look like the well-balanced, better established team right now. And I think the Bucs right now are still trying to figure out their identity because they got a lot of new pieces trying to fit in. Obviously, they signed Leonard Fournette, who was released from the Jaguars. Obviously, Gronk was back, which was nice to see, but you didn't really know he was there because he really didn't do anything. Mike Evans caught I think Mike Evans caught one pass. Yeah, one pass, and that was the last touchdown that the Bucs scored, I believe, in the game. So, a lot of things you could take away from it, and there's stuff that the Bucs definitely can work on and improve, and I think they will do that. But as I said, I think this is the Saints division to win, and obviously Breeze didn't look fantastic, but I think as the season goes on, they'll get better. But also the other thing is Michael Thomas will be out for a couple of weeks after he sustained the ankle injury, which is a huge blow to that offense. So,
yeah, the Saints offense, obviously, without Michael Thomas, that could make a pretty good-sized difference. They go into Las Vegas. That's right, another new team now. The Las Vegas Raiders debut their home stadium next week, of course, on Monday Night Football. But, yeah, Kenny, the storyline going to this game, though, between the Bucs and the Saints, how will Tom Brady come out? And, with Gronk, everyone was looking at, what if this could be like a fairy tale ending, to Tom's career. Tom and Gronk go back to the Super Bowl. But they didn't pass the test on Sunday. Looking at Brady's stat line, he goes 23-36, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. That's not good for a first game. It's not. And it's understandable. Okay, I'm not going to totally blame Tom because he's working his way into a brand new offense under new coaching. I mean, he's been with Bill Belichick since 2001. 19 years. 20 years, technically. But now under Bruce Arians, different coaching style. He's got different weapons now. And he has weapons in Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. But, for the most part, you didn't hear anything from Evans. Now, look, I know Evans was a little banged up coming into this game. He had 1 catch for 2 yards, and it was a touchdown. That's it. That's all you heard out of Mike Evans on Sunday. Godwin had 6 for 79, which that's fine. Scotty Miller stepped up into a big role, 5 for 73, and then O.J. Howard had that touchdown catch, 4 for 36. But the Bucs have to figure out That team chemistry has to blend together. Now that you have a new quarterback, there's a lot of hype, around the Bucs right now. It's like the Browns last year. Everyone was saying, oh, the Browns are going to go to the Super Bowl. It's going to be a great year for them. And, well, we saw what happened last year. And I don't think that's going to happen with the Bucs. I expect the Bucs to, just look past this game. It's the opening game. Everyone's a little rusty with the way this offseason has been because it's been nothing even close to normal with no preseason and limited training camps. So everyone's a little rusty, and that's just how it is right now. But the Bucs have to look past this. They face the Panthers next week at home, which they should win. They really should. And in all honesty, I said from the get-go, I think the Bucs could go 10-6, maybe even 11-5, but that's probably pushing it. I think 10-6 was reasonable though for this team with the weapons that they have. And like I said, Brady's just got to put this behind him. He's Tom Brady. He's still capable of making great throws, great plays. He's 43 years old. I can't believe this guy's still out here playing the way he is, and he's getting all that money. It's amazing. Tom Brady's just had a whale of a career. But overall, Saints proved that they can definitely be the NFC South winner this past weekend.
Yeah, definitely. And then switching over to the other side, Cam Newton making his debut for the New England Patriots, and the Patriots ultimately win that game 21-11 over the Miami Dolphins. And it was a different kind of style for the Patriots now. Now that Brady's gone, it was all it was a lot of running. It was a lot of run plays, and that just shows how good of a coordinator Josh McDaniels is, being able to utilize Cam Newton and being able to use his strengths and basically revolving the offense around him. And it worked for week one, albeit now when you look at both sides, when you look at the game that Brady had and the game that Cam Newton had, look at the competition. Obviously the Dolphins are nowhere near to what the Saints are. So obviously it's only week one, but Cam Newton looked pretty good. And now it worked against the Dolphins, but coming up, week two, game coming up against Seattle, they're going to have to throw the ball a lot more. He only had 19 passing attempts for 155 yards. That's not going to be Russell Wilson on Sunday. The Patriots are definitely going to have to throw the ball more. It's definitely going to be a high-scoring game, knowing Russell Wilson and his offense. But overall, Cam Newton did pretty good yesterday, and he did just enough for them to win. But obviously, when you go up against these better teams like Kansas City and Baltimore later in the year, you're going to have to be able to throw the ball. And obviously, the Patriots have a lack of weapons right now at their disposal. So they're going to have to, we're going to have to see what happens on Sunday against Seattle and see if Cam Newton's able to use his arm more than his legs. But again, they probably figured, hey, the rushing attack is working, just keep going to it. And kind of like what the 49ers did to the Packers in the Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens next week. But they're going to probably have to air it out a lot more than they did on Sunday.
And it's good that you bring that up, Kenny, about how Josh McDaniels is such a great coordinator. Because I hate to make it sound like they're free from Brady, but Tom Brady was not a mobile quarterback for most of his career. And, obviously McDaniels hasn't been there his entire career. But now the Patriots have a little bit more diversity in that play calling style. Cam Newton's a mobile quarterback. He has the ability to, get on some good runs. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, Cam. All right, that's a big deal, and that's a big part of why they won this game on Sunday. The Dolphins don't look that much improved from last year, but they definitely have, I think, a better defense. Eventually, we're going to see Tua at some point this season because, it's likely the Dolphins are going to go quite a bit below 500 this season. But, if you're a Dolphins fan, I don't think they played horrible on Sunday. Ryan Fitzpatrick did throw 3 picks, though, so that's obviously one big downside to why they probably lost this game, too. And if you're a Patriots fan, you have Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels still on the sidelines there calling out plays and everything. The Patriots should be A-okay without Tom Brady. Now, they're not going to be, 12-4, 13-3 like we're used to seeing most years. I think the door's open for Buffalo to potentially steal the AFC East this year. But the Patriots look fine. Cam Newton's, I like him. I like him from what I saw in Week 1, especially with his mobility. Patriots are a 10-6 team in my eyes, 9-7 at the very least, I think. But you got to be encouraged with how the Patriots looked on Sunday, and it's got to be good hopes for this season.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think, obviously, a lot of guys on the Patriots opted out, and the defense did look, albeit against Ryan Fitzpatrick, the defense still looked pretty good. But, again, we're going to see what happens on Sunday when they go up against Russell Wilson, how they're going to fare against him. But, overall, a good Week 1 for the Patriots. But, again, want to stress that it's only Week 1. Got to keep reminding ourselves that because the season can change at any moment. And guys can get hurt. It could be a mirage, or an anomaly, and they could end up just being bad or really good. So, albeit, with everything going on, Week 1 was very good. It was so great to have football back, and we will continue to talk about football. But right now, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about our team, the New York Giants. So stick around. We'll be right back here on Infinite Sports Radio.
That'll be a fun segment. Oh, boy.
All right, and we're back here on Infinite Sports Radio. We're approaching hour number 2 of the radio program. So, obviously, let's get into how our New York Giants played last night, Ben. So, last night, the Giants took the field against the Pittsburgh Steelers, my mom's favorite team versus my dad's favorite team. And the Pittsburgh Steelers took the victory, 26-16 over the New York Giants. Ben Roethlisberger obviously making his return from his elbow injury that he suffered, 1 year ago last night, which obviously he started off a little rusty, but then was able to settle in against that Giant defense, which did play pretty well, I would have to say, or better than expected. Ben's finishing line was 21 of 32 for 229 and 3 touchdowns. Benny Snell, the running back, had to step up due to James Conner getting injured earlier in the first half. 19 carries for 113 yards. And Juju Smith-Schuster, 6 receptions for 69 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Pittsburgh Steelers definitely looked like the better team and were the better team last night, which was kind of expected, but obviously expected Ben to be rusty because of him being out for so long. But let's get to our Giants. So I saw a lot of good things last night, but ultimately they looked better, but ultimately they still kind of looked like the same team that we're accustomed to seeing. Daniel Jones obviously going 26 of 41, 279, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. I want to say 2 horrible interceptions. And Saquon Barkley, 15 carries for 6 yards. Ben Roethlisberger finished with 9 rushing yards, which you could look at that any way you want, but that definitely shows how bad the Giants' offensive line was last night in terms of blocking for Barkley. I thought it held up a bit when it came to throwing the ball. Obviously, there was a lot of good plays last night with the big play to Barkley, but even the first touchdown to Darius Slayton, that was a great play by Daniel. Great throw by Daniel Jones to Darius Slayton. And the defense had a couple of good plays. Leonard Williams, the guy that Dave Gettleman praises for getting from the Jets, he had a sack. Lorenzo Carter and Dexter Lawrence, they were applying a lot of pressure last night. But overall, it was a frustrating loss because the Giants definitely could have won that game. But ultimately, they were playing against a better team, and I think this is kind of going to be the norm of this season with the Giants being competitive. I think they'll be a lot more competitive. They definitely showed that last night. But ultimately, I think this season's going to be a long one again for us because of costly mistakes by the quarterback. Defense definitely got tired at the end, And the Giants have one of the hardest schedules. So I think on top of all that, I think the Giants will be competitive, but I think they're destined for another subpar season.
Unfortunately, that's exactly it, Kenny. As New York Giants fans, we've been used to this over the last couple seasons. As what have we had? 12 wins in the last 3 years. Yeah. It's been a tough struggle for this franchise over the last 3-4 years. And look, if I had to grade the Giants on their performance last night, this is being a little generous, but I think they get a C+. That's being generous. The run defense was actually really good, like you said. Great, okay? I mean, they looked really good. James Conner was invisible. Benny Snell at the end, obviously they gave up a couple big runs. But overall, the run defense was fine last night. And that's a good sign for a defense in general that was struggling last year. And on the pass, though, yeah, they did struggle a little bit. Couldn't really contain that pass defense. Juju Smith-Schuster had 6 catches for 69 yards with 2 touchdowns. And James Washington, 2 catches for 34 yards. And I don't know how he scored that touchdown last night. Right before the half, the Giants, there were 2 guys on James Washington. They could have easily taken him down at the 2-yard line. The clock, Pittsburgh probably would have used, I think they had 1 timeout left, but
there was like 8 seconds left, too,
there was 8
in the half.
Exactly, Kenny. There was like 8 seconds left, and you got to tackle Washington. You can't let him just, bully you guys, push into the end zone. It's that can't happen, unfortunately. Ben, I'm glad to see Ben back on the field, even though he was playing the Giants last night. 21-32, like you said, with 3 touchdowns. He looked really nice last night. They got off to a slow start, Pittsburgh. Looked promising for the Giants. But now focusing on the Giants' mistake. So when you punt to Pittsburgh in the opening minutes of the game, and I'm pretty sure it was Deontay Johnson who muffed that punt.
Yes, you are correct.
Yes, it was Johnson. And the Giants recover it at the 5-yard line. All right, that's great. That's awesome, and now you're in the, you're goal to go situation. And you can't walk away with a field goal. I'm sorry. And Evan Ingram probably should have caught that pass from Daniel Jones. That was a little bit on Jones's end, too, his fault. It was a little bit overthrown and out of Ingram's reach, just a hair. But still, Ingram's got to make a little bit of a better effort, I think, to get that ball. Giants could have easily been up 7-0 to start this game, but instead they walked away with 3 points. Good to see we have a better kicker this year. I think Graham Gano, by the way, is a nice upgrade for the special teams department on this team. Saquon Barkley, like you said, Kenny, invisible. Okay, I'm not going to put all the blame on him. The Steelers' defense is one of the best in the league, especially on the run. But, I was hoping Saquon would get a little more than 6 rushing yards last night.
I know, and Ben Roethlisberger getting 9 and, beating him in terms of rushing yards.
Yep, and Saquon got held out of the end zone, too, which is even more painful. It couldn't even get in the end zone last night. And Darius Slayton was the highlight last night, definitely. Daniel Jones threw a beautiful pass to Slayton. I believe it was like a 42-yard touchdown, somewhere in that vicinity. 41 yards, my bad. Darius Slayton, 6 catches, 102 yards, and 2 touchdowns. All right? That's great. That's awesome to see Darius Slayton really molding into his role here. And, that's a good sign. I thought, he would probably be a breakout player this year for the Giants. It's 1 week. We can't get too high on him yet.
You definitely should have started him in fantasy this week.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead, I started Christian Kirk on the Cardinals, and he got 1 measly point. Slayton, meanwhile, got like 26. So that sums up my week. I got lucky to win because the Denver defense. Thank you for giving up yards in the end of the game. That was great performance. But the worst part of the game, Kenny, the Giants are down 16-10. All right, it's mid-third quarter, I think, when they get the ball. You drive down the field, and after almost 9 minutes, Daniel Jones is once again in a pressure situation because the Giants' offensive line is weak, which it's true. They've been weak for a while. And you cannot you cannot cost your team a potential touchdown drive because Jones got hit in the right arm. The ball went loose out of his hand. It was just a high lob. Cam Hayward picked it off for Pittsburgh. After a 9-minute drive, you guys are all the way down at the Pittsburgh 6-yard line, and that has to happen. I mean, come on, Jones. You know, I get it. This guy's still in his second year, okay, with the Giants, and his first opening night start, which, by the way, the first time in like 5,600 days that the Giants starter wasn't Eli, which is pretty crazy to think. But I'm sorry, Daniel Jones, you really can't make that mistake in your second year, dude. I'm sorry. You can't. I wish... Look, I get he was under heavy pressure, and he was trying to throw out of bounds. And I'm pretty sure he saw Ingram in the back of the end zone. He saw a receiver. You could see it from one angle on the replay. But you got to get that ball out of bounds, or at least just try and spike it in the ground, or even take the sack. I mean, you know, if Gano went out there, it would have been a 3-point game. The Giants would have still been well in it. But instead, no. And he cost us. 87-yard, 18-play drive, almost 9 minutes. And sadly, let's relive this. Here's the call from Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit of ESPN.
19th play of this drive coming up. Jones scrambling again. Hit as he throws, ball lofted in the air, and it's intercepted. Cameron Hayward ends a Giant drive to summon the...
And yeah, that was it. I wish you could see the replay if anyone didn't see it, see the game last night. But it was just disappointing. It took all the momentum and all the hard work out of that drive, and it was a game changer for Pittsburgh. The Giants could have easily scored and tied the game up, or at least cut it to 3, but unfortunately not. But look, Kenny, you know what? It was expected. You know, I don't think personally the Giants are going to be better than 7-9. I think 8-8 might even be a push. This team is clearly still in the rebuilding process right now, and they're getting there. They're making strides. Joe Judge and Jason Garrett as our new head coach and offensive coordinator, respectively. That's great. Great upgrades from...
Patrick Graham as the defensive coordinator who they got from Miami.
Say that again. I didn't turn your mic.
Sorry. Patrick Graham from the defensive coordinator that they got from Miami also called a pretty good game. Defense looked fast. You know, they looked a lot better. They looked more competent. Obviously, like we mentioned with Lorenzo Carter, Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Blake Martinez made a couple of plays. And also another play that could have really changed the game, even after the Jones interception to Cam Hayward, was James Bradbury stripping. I think it was Benny Snell,
yes,
which could have turned the game around. And of course, you had 5-6 Giants right there. But of course, Juju Smith-Schuster is the only Steeler. He's able to pounce on the ball and recover it before any of the Giants can react to the ball being stripped out.
And that's a missed opportunity right there. If you're the Giants, you gotta get that ball. That was also you're right. Another unfortunate part to that game. I mean, three things that the Giants can take away from this game. The run defense has improved, and look, I get it's 1 week, but I think they're going to be better on the run for defense this year. So hats off to that, to them for the run defense, improving on that. Number 2, Daniel Jones has to make smarter decisions. If he can't have the ability to throw the ball out of the bounds under pressure situations and stuff like that, if plays like that happen, the Giants are going to just easily give up games, especially with how vulnerable their pass defense is. And number 3, hopefully Saquon can turn it on here, because I get that he was going up against Pittsburgh's defense, but you got to get more than 6 yards on the ground. That's terrible. And he had 6 catches for 60 yards, which is great. So those screen passes are working out between Jones and Barkley, but you got to get the ground game going, or else the Giants offense is going to see a lot of 3-and-outs or a lot of just missed opportunities. And like I said, Kenny, I think a C+ is probably a fair but a little generous grade to give the Giants They go to Chicago next week. They're underdogs. I think they're getting 4.5 in the spread as of right now. Hopefully things can turn around next week. We'll see some good signs, hopefully. But you know what? It's going to be a long season, and we just got to keep accepting that there will be growing pains. But hopefully things can turn around for the Giants here in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, I mean, next 2 weeks, 2 very good defenses are going up against the Bears, the 49ers, then after that. And I guess you could throw the Rams in there, too, with Aaron Donald and obviously Jalen Ramsey on the back end. So where are the wins coming from? That's what I want to know. But also, speaking of the spreads, so we have our spread pool. Just want to say shout out to my sister, Jessica Gruenfelder, for winning 15 games.
Hats
out
off.
of 16.
Hats off to your sister, Jessica Kenny. Like I said, I was in a huge $100 spread pool entry last year through CBS as well. Nobody in all of those 17 weeks went better than 13-3. So for your sister not to go just 15-1, she went 15-1 in week 1 with like unknowns in the midst of a global pandemic, no fans in most stadiums. Hats off to her. That's an accomplishment I don't think anyone's ever going to beat.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it the last couple of days. I mean, she really set the bar very high, and probably the highest you're going to go. And, you know, it makes all of us kind of nervous as to how this year's going to play out, if we're going to be looking up the whole time in the standings of the spread pool. Because, my God, 15?
I don't know how. In week 1. That's incredible, Jessica. That's really good.
I mean, that's just... Let's hope it doesn't happen again for our sake. But you know what? Hey, she's got $20.
She came out with a statement. She's like, "All right, come get me. Let's see."
She's got $20 in her pocket. $20 more dollars than she had yesterday. So
there you go.
That's good. That's good for her. But also with fantasy, a lot of stuff came down to that Tennessee Titans Broncos game. You know, obviously reading my friend's group chat, stuff going back and forth with guys that they had in the game. I mean, it came down to the wire in both fantasy games, and 2 of my friends are not as happy as the ones that won. But it was pretty crazy, and also in the spreads, because we obviously wanted to. Well, I at least wanted to get to 8 this week, so I was betting on the Titans getting that -1 and getting the points. You know, Steven Gostkowski didn't make it look easy for them last night, but they were able to get it. So 8-8, you know, obviously not as good as 15-1, but you know, we'll take it. And again, it's a long season, so hopefully we'll be up there by the end. Well, hopefully I'll be up there by the end of the year.
Thanks.
So you know,
throw your co-host under the bus.
Well, and I also want to mention that the top 5 right now in the standings are all family members for me. All family members.
That's also a good
so
feat. Your family's cutthroat when it comes to this, I can see.
So, you know, obviously, did we really pick the right people to do the pool with? Should we have left them out? I don't know. But you know what? Again, long season. Let's hope that this was just an anomaly and that, you know, better weeks are ahead for us in the spread pool and in fantasy. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to actually touch upon one more thing with football. We'll discuss our Super Bowl picks and discuss baseball and basketball, talk about our Yankees, talk about the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, in hour number 2 of our radio program. So stick around. We'll be right back here on Infinite Sports Radio.
Up.
3rd down and goal. In the pocket, over the middle, and that will be caught by Kelsey. Touchdown, Kansas City.
All right, and we're back here on Infinite Sports Radio, hour number 2 of our radio program. And right now we're going to get into our Super Bowl picks. So I guess I'll go first. So I think it's kind of going to be a popular pick, and it's actually going to be a matchup this year, I believe week 15. So on the AFC side, I think the Chiefs are going to get back there again. I really do. I just think that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. You know, a lot of people think the same thing, so it's not really a hot take or whatever. But I just think the Chiefs, they there's just so much firepower on offense, and obviously now with the addition of Clyde Edwards-Helaire and how he performed on Thursday night, that just makes that offense so much better. They retained pretty much every starter from that Super Bowl team, and obviously on defense, another year in that system with Steve Spagnuolo. I just think the Chiefs right now are the best team in the AFC, and I think that as much as a lot of people will say like the Ravens could get there. I just think that Patrick Mahomes in the end outduels Lamar Jackson. I think that they get to the championship game, and I think those might be the final two teams standing in the AFC when it's all said and done. But last year, especially in the playoff game against the Titans, you could see how Lamar Jackson always was playing with the lead, was never behind, and then once they got down against the Titans, they weren't able to come back. And the next day, Patrick Mahomes down 24-0 was able to lead his team back and ultimately get the 51-31 win over the Texans. That showed me all I needed to know with the Chiefs. That showed me everything I need to know, is that Patrick Mahomes is able to play from behind, is able to rally the team and get them back in games and ultimately win games. So I just think the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC right now, and I think that's who's going to be standing in the Super Bowl to try to repeat in February. And then on the NFC side, obviously, look, love Aaron Rodgers. Was very encouraged from what I saw on Sunday. But unfortunately, I am not going to pick him to go to the Super Bowl. I think, obviously, with the injury to Michael Thomas, I think the Saints are going to do it this year. I think they're going to get to the Super Bowl this year. I think they've been getting screwed over, really, in the past 3 seasons with the Stephon Diggs play, with the no-call pass interference in the championship game against the Rams, and then obviously the overtime loss to Minnesota last year in the playoffs at New Orleans. I just think the Saints, with the additions now of Emmanuel Sanders on offense to give Drew Brees really that second weapon that they've been wanting, opposite Michael Thomas, and now he's going to have to step up due to Michael Thomas being out. And with the addition of Malcolm Jenkins, a strong safety, I just think that the Saints are the best team right now. I just think the Saints are the best team right now in the NFC, and I think that ultimately it's going to be them versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, who do I think is going to win that game? I think the Saints will win. I am picking the Saints to win the Super Bowl. I think that, like I said, they've been getting screwed over these past couple of years, and I think this time they're going to get it right. Drew Brees is going to ride off into the sunset, and he's going to capture that second Super Bowl that he's desperately wanted for the past couple of years. So I'm going to pick the Saints over the Chiefs in this upcoming Super Bowl in Tampa in February, and we might see a preview of it week 15, I believe, in New Orleans. So if it doesn't happen, we'll still technically get that matchup this year in the regular season. So that should definitely be a good game, and we'll see what happens.
Kenny, those are both great picks. I'd really have to agree with that. I really don't think anybody is gonna beat out the Chiefs in the AFC. They are the team to beat. Why do you think I played that Patrick Mahomes clip right there? Haha. But yeah, that team's really rolling right now. I mean, when you put Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins all together, and now you're adding Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the backfield, which, like you said, could be a Kareem Hunt without the issues. Yes, totally agree. I think it's great that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, burst onto the scene here in Week 1. It's a great sign for Chiefs fans. It's a great sign for him. He did great at LSU. For anyone who didn't watch his college years, he was always such a dynamic running back. I loved, his playing style. And he was under some of the best, of course, under Coach Ed Orgeron down at LSU. But, yeah, nobody's touching the Chiefs. I don't think. The Ravens, maybe. They made their own statement against the Browns this weekend, but that's not saying a whole lot because, the Browns, they're such a team. And in the NFC, though, Kenny, the Saints, I really think you're right. I guess, San Francisco, maybe. I mean, that would probably be the only other team that I could really see making a run. And Seattle, too, I guess, actually. So, ultimately, though, this is Drew Brees' last rodeo. At least, almost certainly. And the Saints are probably going to treat it like Drew Brees' last rodeo. And I hope they can get it done for his sake. The Saints haven't won since Super Bowl 44, which was now 10 years ago plus. So hopefully, at least the Saints can make the Super Bowl. But you're right. I think Chiefs-Saints will be Super Bowl 55 in Tampa, no less. All the talk about the Bucks, no, I don't think that's going to happen. But who knows? We've seen crazier things in the NFL. Will the Saints and the Chiefs make the Super Bowl? Who knows? Nobody knows. But at least from week one, and, well, we were already speculating about it before week one, the Chiefs look to be a heavy favorite for the Super Bowl. The NFC is a little more open, but like you said, the Saints, I think they're going to be that other team facing off in the Super Bowl. It'll be the Chiefs and the Saints, I think, for Super Bowl 55, just like you said.
Yeah, so there's definitely no parity here with our Super Bowl predictions. Now, those are the predictions. That's what I think is going to happen. What I would love to see in the Super Bowl is obviously what we didn't get to see last year in the regular season when Patrick Mahomes got injured. Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes, the State Farm Bowl, whatever you want to call it. I would love if that's the Super Bowl, but I just think right now, and we'll find out week 3 who's the better team in the short term, the Saints or the Packers, which would be a great game. Can't wait to see Breeze and Rodgers going at it, probably for one more time. That's what I would want to see, but I think, as of right now, I think the Saints are the best team in the NFC. I think it's going to be very competitive. Got to get home field because obviously there's no bye week for the number 2 seed this year. So we'll see what happens, but those are our Super Bowl predictions. And yeah, we'll see what happens. We got 16 more weeks to go in the regular season, so we'll see what happens. So I think that's enough with football for now. Kind of want to transition over to baseball. So obviously really haven't talked about it that much on our pre-recorded show last week because we wanted to talk about football because football is coming back. But obviously we got another 40, 50 minutes left in the show. So the past couple of weeks prior to last week, our team, the New York Yankees, looked dead. They just looked like a team that was collapsing, falling apart, pathetic, putrid, everything you want to call it. But recently now they're riding high, and as of right now they're winning against the Toronto Blue Jays 9-1 in the bottom of the 3rd inning.
Oh, it's 9-1
now. It's 9-1, yes.
And they have the bases loaded with no outs.
Yeah, so
they're pouring it on so far.
And obviously, Giancarlo Stanton and Gio Urshela are making their returns to the lineup, which is huge for this team because obviously, you could say injuries have been a problem. I think mostly it's been the pitching that's been their weakness. Their bullpen has been dreadful. Obviously, ignoring these past couple of games, they finally turned the corner and starting to pitch and be more competent. The bullpen is starting to pitch better. This team looks like they turned on that switch finally that we've been waiting for because, losing 5 in a row, I think it was, and, getting right to 500 at 21-21, it looked like this team was just not going to go anywhere at one point. And we didn't really know what to think because, last year they were able to overcome so much, and it looked like this year they ran out of gas, and it looked like that, the next man up mentality wasn't going to work out. But guys are starting to come back. Aaron Judge is supposedly going to come back for the Red Sox series that's coming up this weekend, I believe. So a lot of signs are pointing in the right direction for the Yankees, and it looks like that they're trending upward. The division is still in reach, but right now it's unlikely because there's really only another week in the regular season. Another week.
2 weeks.
Another 2 weeks. And then playoffs will start. But right now the Yankees look good, and they look good, look even better. Up 9-1 against the Blue Jays, who are having a pretty good season themselves.
Update: DJ LeMahieu, 3-run RBI double.
So now what is it? 12-1.
12-1 Yankees.
All right, so I guess we could say the Yankees are going to win that game. I don't really want.
They probably will.
I don't really want to jinx it though. That's the problem because crazier things have happened. But right now, the Yankees look good, and hopefully that continues. They keep winning games. They hopefully get themselves back into first place, which they got a long way to go. The Rays are up 2-0 against the Nationals, so keep your eyes on that if you're a Yankee fan. But obviously with baseball, the playoffs are right around the corner, and the MLB just released the playoff format, so it looks like they're going to be doing a bubble format. With the expanded playoffs, there's going to be the wild card round, which is a best of 3. Then you'll have the divisions, which the best of 3 will take place in the higher seeds' home ballpark. But then once they get to the Division Series, Championship Series, and the World Series, they will transition to a bubble format where I believe the National League is going to be playing in the Padres Stadium and the American League is going to be playing in the Rangers' new stadium, unless I get those two mixed up.
I think
and it's the other way around.
I think it's the other way around. I'm pretty sure.
It's probably the other way around. And I also think the Dodgers Stadium too is another site for games that will be played. But the World Series is definitely going to be taking place in the Rangers' new stadium.
Yes,
which is a nice ballpark. And honestly, I really can't wait till fans are back in the stands. Which actually, Rob Manfred, one of our favorite human beings on the planet, said
piece of metal.
Yeah.
Piece of metal. Never letting that down, Rob.
He said that there's a possibility that fans could be in the stands for these playoff games, which would be great. Because obviously with football, fans in some stadiums have returned to the stands, but we'd like to see that in baseball too, because it's kind of been more of like a Masters U.S. Open kind of environment. Because Ben, you're a big golf guy, so there's really not a lot of stuff going on with no fans in the stands, and it'd be nice to see fans in the stands if it gets to that point.
Yeah, just to see some fans by the end of the season would be something else, and what's been definitely the most bizarre baseball season that we'll ever see. This 2020 season, which is abbreviated, started back on July 23rd. Definitely could have started a good 3-4 weeks earlier. But, of course, the owners and Rob Manfred and the players all got in a battle over money. And we're just going to leave it at that because it was an ugly scene. I don't think anyone thought, in June when all this was going on, I don't think anyone thought we would have a baseball season this year. I certainly didn't. I thought there was a lot of doubt on any sites for a 2020 season. And the season came back Thursday, July 23rd, which is hard to believe. It's already been almost 2 months now that we've had baseball back. But it came back with a lot of issues. The Miami Marlins had a big outbreak. They didn't play for almost 2 weeks. The St. Louis Cardinals ended up having a big outbreak a week or so in. They were also off for about 2 weeks. The Phillies, they got a couple positive cases from the Marlins, the Marlins were playing in Philadelphia one weekend, which forced the Yankees to that series got postponed.
Because I believe then the Yankees, because that was earlier in the season, in the abridged season, then the Yankees went to Baltimore to play 3 games.
Correct, yeah, and but obviously the MLB went through with proper protocols. You can't let the Phillies go out and play after they had, just played the Marlins. So it was the right call, obviously, by the MLB to call off that, series by them. And I tell you what, the the league has really, really stepped up on its protocols ever since those first couple weeks, because it was a terrible effort by the MLB in the beginning to try and contain what's an out-of-control virus. I mean, as it is, Kenny, we're inside a studio here, with nobody else. We're still 6 feet apart, and, we're masked up. If you can't tell why our voices might be a little bit muffled, we're wearing masks here.
But we could say that we're actually rooming together this year.
Yes.
So
yes, that's
it might be
true.
a little different for other people, but we're kind of, we're living in the same suite.
Right.
So it's different for us.
It's our own little bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but yeah, Major League Baseball, there was, talks that the Cardinals went to a casino one night, which is probably why they had some positive cases there to report. The Marlins also, they weren't taking the protocols heavily. I think that's why they had a bit of an outbreak, and that's what the downside is with this virus. You have to be careful. All right, look, everyone's was sick and tired of quarantine. Understandably, it's been just over 6 months now, which is hard to believe that we've been dealing with the coronavirus, and I get it. We can't stay cooped up forever, and obviously, these Major League Baseball players didn't want to stay cooped up in their own bubbles. But ever since those first couple of weeks and what was a disastrous start, everybody thought baseball was going to crumble and it was all going to slap Rob Manfred in the face and the season would have had to get suspended. But overall, the league has done a great job overcoming those obstacles with the Cardinals and the Marlins. And we're playing baseball. And we're in the thick of the season right now, as hard as that sounds. Every team's played about 46, 48 games. We have 13 days left in the season. It's a 60-game year. A totally bizarre year. And hopefully we can have fans in the postseason. That's all I can say. That's all I'm hoping for. And think about this too, Kenny. We'll never see this again either, which is even more crazier. And with the Cardinals outbreak, like I referenced, they're going to end up playing, assuming they don't get a COVID case within the last couple weeks.
relapse.
Yeah, if they miraculously got one. But assuming all goes well here for them the last couple of weeks, the St. Louis Cardinals will have played 53 games over the span of 45 days.
That is crazy.
That is unreal.
That is insane.
Unreal. A baseball team will never play that many games in that time span again, I'm sure. This is 2020.
Well, let's just hope by the springtime next year, everything is starting to ease its way back.
I would
to how
certainly
it
hope
was
so.
pre-COVID, which I'm optimistic that it's going to be a lot better than it is right now. It obviously cases are going up and down all the time, so there's really, everything's all over the place, so you can't really determine, where we are right now. But I would say we're definitely better than when we first started and how it was over the summer.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm assuming by the spring training next year, everything will be close to normal. Fans will be able to return to the games in some sort of capacity. And hopefully we'll have a 162-game season like we're accustomed to seeing. But
yeah, and 2021, think about it. The MLB released those schedules literally like the day after the season started this year, which is pretty crazy. So, obviously, every sports league every sports league is banking on having their full schedules back for the 2021 seasons. Of course, that's the hope. Like I said, Kenny, I'm optimistic too that by the spring we can have, probably like 75%, 80% capacity back in stadiums and arenas for sports games. I'm optimistic. Obviously, this is not something to take lightly. Of course, we got to take the precautions. It's verbatim, but
yeah.
you know what? It's been a quirky MLB season. Can't wait to see what's going to happen though once the playoffs start in 2 weeks. Obviously, looking forward to seeing what the San Diego Padres are going to do in the postseason. The Miami Marlins have a chance to make the playoffs for the first time.
How crazy is that?
In a good while too. Steve Cohen bought the Mets yesterday, so Mets fans rejoice. The Wilpons are getting out of New York. That's got to be a great feeling if you're a Met fan. Come on. Steve Cohen's got almost all the money in the world, honestly. The guy's rich. He's a multi-billionaire. So hopefully for the Mets, they can start going out and going after some big, franchise players. But, yeah, what a quirky MLB season, Kenny. We're never going to see anything like this again. I mean, out of all the sports, all the major league sports, that is, the MLB's been screwed up the most just because of the timing. And
yeah,
we'll never see anything like this. And
I hope we never see anything like this again.
And who knows? Maybe the Yankees will, turn it on here like they have recently. Knock on wood, with a 12-1 lead, they'll have a 6-game winning streak after tonight if they hang on, which I certainly hope so. But
if they don't, we got major problems.
Yeah,
we really got major problems if they can't hold on to a 12-1 lead.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. But yes, like you mentioned, just to remind you all about the postseason, the wild card series will be at the home stadiums like we've seen for the regular season, the cardboard cutouts at most of them and all that, which has been a little freaky, but I'm fine with it. The ALDS will be in San Diego and LA. The NLDS will be in Arlington and Houston. And the ALCS will be in San Diego, the NLCS in Arlington, leading up to the World Series, which will also be in Arlington at the Rangers' new stadium. A little odd that the MLB is doing a bubble format for the playoffs after they've been at home stadiums all year. But you know what?
I think it's
safe.
Yeah.
It's a safe option. And Rob Manfred said from the get-go that they wanted the season to end on September 27th so they could get the playoffs done before any potential winter outbreaks, which the CDC is projecting could happen. So, I mean, it's smart by the MLB to, I guess, do a bubble format, even though a little awkward that they've been at the home stadiums all year. But, of course, that's way too many games to play in a bubble format for sure.
Yeah, I think the thing you got to look at is also let's say, Clayton Kershaw or Cody Bellinger or Mookie Betts, for the Dodgers' sake, use them as an example. If one of those guys gets COVID and is out during the playoffs, I mean, that's huge. That's a huge part of their team. And if they're, so obviously the Dodgers wouldn't want to play playoff games if you got one of those guys that potentially tests positive for COVID. And you also got to look at the fact that if a whole team gets infected with it, then the playoffs get pushed back, and then you're only prolonging, the postseason for potentially even more outbreaks from the virus. So it kind of makes sense. They, like you said, they want to play it safe and make sure that nobody tests positive for this thing. We get through the playoffs, because obviously with the NBA and the NHL, the bubble format has been outstanding. Great results. Really, I'm pretty sure nobody's tested positive, from the bubble formats. Not
in the last 4 or 5 weeks.
So
it's been great. It really has.
Got the Islanders game on right now. But, yeah, so that's definitely why they're doing that. And also the NFL could potentially do that, which I hope they don't. I'm hoping that the NFL season plays out as it normally does, and that fans will be in the stands for the playoffs. But we got a long way to go with that. So, a lot of stuff to look forward to. We got, the 4 major sports leagues all on at the same time, which, is kind of rare to see, especially where everything's at. I mean, we're on the cusp of getting to the conference finals for the NBA. The Western Conference, at least. The Eastern Conference finals started tonight between the Celtics and the Miami Heat. And Game 7 tonight of the Western Conference quarterfinals. Semifinals, sorry. Get all that confused up. Between the Denver Nuggets and the LA Clippers, which should be a great game. And LeBron James is waiting for his next opponent.
He will be.
Everybody's hoping for Clippers-Lakers. We'll see what happens. I think the Clippers will win tonight. I think, obviously, with Kawhi Leonard, I think Leonard's going to close him out. So we'll see what happens. But we're going to talk about all that. For right now, we're going to take a quick break, last break of the night. When we come back, we'll talk about the NBA playoffs, talk about the NHL playoffs to close out the show. Stick around. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back here on Infinite Sports Radio.
Coming up after the Stone Temple Pilots, Kenny and I will, like we mentioned, go into the NBA and the NHL bubbles and why they've worked out so well. Also, the NASCAR playoffs and golf after this. Back here on Infinite Sports Radio, 8:34 on this Tuesday evening. Of course, we're here to wrap up the show the last half an hour here. Kenny, we're going to focus down the stretch here on what's been an awkward yet very exciting NBA and Stanley Cup playoff bubbles. Of course, let's just start off with the hockey first. So the Stanley Cup playoffs have been staged in 2 arenas this late summer up in Canada at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto and Rogers Place in Edmonton, home of the Oilers and the Maple Leafs. And it's a good choice by the NHL going up to Canada where obviously the virus is a little bit more under control and obviously strict bubble protocols as the NBA has been doing as well. All the players are confined to their hotel rooms for the most part. Foods meals are delivered to their rooms, I'm pretty sure. It's a very strict atmosphere and a little bit odd. But it's great that for the most part, almost all these players have been taking the bubble protocol seriously, which is great to see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for both the NBA and the NHL, like we were talking about, really nothing to report in terms of positive tests, which is good for both leagues. I mean, the playoffs have been good. Playoffs have been solid. I mean, obviously, looking at with hockey, being an Islanders fan, not really got to start watching them more in the regular season. But, I think the break was like the best thing that could have happened to the Islanders because they were reeling right before COVID really took the world by storm. And at one point they were on the outside looking in for the playoff picture. And, they had that play-in series, and they were able to get that and get into the playoffs. And here they are playing right now, fighting for their playoff lives, down 3-1 to the Tampa Bay Lightning, who, going into the series was really nervous. This team looks like the best team right now in the conference. But, the Islanders had a couple of bad breaks, especially in Game 2 when the Lightning score with 8 seconds left in regulation to beat the Islanders 2-1. And obviously the other day, playing during football, the Islanders score and get them up 1-0, and then the Lightning score 2 straight goals after that. So right now the Islanders are playing Game 5, trying to extend this to 6 games, get it to Game 6. And they're on the power play, which they have struggled on the power plays. We've been talking about that a lot. So there's 5:38 left in the first period. It's 0-0. The Islanders are on the power play.
And they're 1 for their last 21. That graphic says that we're looking at the screen.
Yeah, so I'm hoping they can continue it because it's really been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to see this team get to where they are right now. And, if they don't get it, hey, none of us really expected them to get to this point. And the fact that they're here and the fact that, they're literally a few games away. Well, they got to, obviously win 3 straight games from the Stanley Cup is quite an accomplishment, especially where this team was prior to the coronavirus outbreak.
Yeah, and quickly, Kenny, but we'll catch you up on how we got here, of course, for the Stanley Cup playoffs. So what the NHL decided to do is they released to us back around July 10th that they were going to be doing a 24-team playoff format. And it was going to be, your usual 16 teams plus 8 quote-unquote qualifying teams. And so even before the first round, there was the Stanley Cup qualifying rounds in which everyone played. And
update, Islanders just scored 1-0.
They did just score. You're right. I'm glad you broke in on that power play. Like we were saying, it's 1-0 now. 4:19 left in that first period. Let's see if we can get a replay here. It looks like Roman Polak scored that goal for the Islanders. as there's at center ice. That's Barzal. Oh, wow, that's a beautiful shot from Roman Polak. Look at that, right from the left side. Vasilevsky's too late to react to that. It might have gone off of Anders Lee out in front. Yeah, it's hard to tell from that angle. I don't think so. I think that's going to be Polak's goal. Good start for the Islanders, though. 1-0 in Game 5. They are down.
It's
3-1.
not enough. It's not enough, though. They got to keep scoring.
Yeah, they
because we saw what happened on Sunday. The Lightning just 2 straight goals immediately in a blink of an eye, which was insane.
And excuse me, it's not Roman Polak. It's Ryan Polak. That's who scored. Okay. See, I'm not good with some of the other names. Like I know most hockey names, but not every single one.
I got to work on that.
But yes, the Stanley Cup qualifiers opened up the 2014 playoffs on August 1st. We saw teams like the Canadiens, the Blackhawks that were looking on the outside. They got in to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And the 5 through 12 seeded teams had to play. That's who it was in each conference. Unfortunately, my New York Rangers got swept by the Carolina Hurricanes. Depressing series. Not going to get into that.
That's all right. Well, the Islanders got swept by them last year, so.
Yeah. But so in the first round, there were some pretty good series. A lot of them were lopsided, though, for the most part. I think the best first-round series was honestly the St. Louis Blues against the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks ended up winning that series in 6 games. They would ultimately fall to Vegas in 7 in the second round. But Vancouver gave it a good run this year in the bubble. And watch out for them, because the hockey world would love to see Vancouver be relevant once again in the playoffs. A great young team with Elias Pettersson, Bo Horvat, and Brock Besser. A lot of great young players on that team. Another team that I really liked coming in was the Calgary Flames. They looked good in their qualifying round matchup. They fell to the Dallas Stars in 6 games, which we know now that the Dallas Stars are going to go to their first Stanley Cup final in 20 years. That's right, since 2000. That was the last time they made it. But Calgary looked really good coming in. Brady Tkachuk, Johnny Gaudreau, good players on Calgary, too. I thought they would upset Dallas. That was my one upset pick in the first round. Dallas ended up winning in 6.
And now they're in the finals.
Yeah, I know.
I
know. That's crazy. That's hard to believe. Colorado, I'm almost in shock that Dallas ended up beating them in 7. Now, Dallas was up in that series 3-1, and they almost blew it. It went to a Game 7. I thought, oh my goodness, Colorado's got all that momentum, because that front line of Nathan McKinnon, Gabe Landeskog, Mikko Rantanen, Nazem Kadri, I mean, what firepower. And I thought for sure Colorado was going to win that Game 7, but that did not happen. Dallas ended up getting to play the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, like I said, the Stanley Cup champions from last year, the Boston Bruins, they got knocked out by the Tampa Bay Lightning in 5. The Lightning completely dominated them in that series almost every game, except for the one win the Bruins got. I believe that was in Game 3. St. Louis got knocked out in the first round, as I said, to Vancouver. St. Louis they weren't on the puck a lot in that series. They struggled to really find the back of the net in a few of those games. They had a lot of good things to take away, though, from the series. But obviously disappointing, since they were the Stanley Cup champions last year. And I'm sorry, I just realized now that I said that, I called the Bruins the Stanley Cup champions last year. They were the runner-up. The Blues won their first ever cup last year. So my bad on that. But yes, so the Islanders rode to get here, though, Kenny. They defeated the Capitals in 5, which I thought was a shock out of the gate. Barry Trotz's former team, of course.
Yep.
They looked really good in that Washington series against Alex Ovechkin, Nick Backstrom, TJ Oshie, all those great Caps players that, and the Caps are always a playoff team every year, which is amazing. Then they would go on to beat the Philadelphia Flyers in 7.
That was a very scary series.
Another series where they had a 3-1 lead and it went to a Game 7.
And all of their losses were in overtime, which is
painful.
Very painful. But they ultimately won that series, thank God, because that
Yep, and now here they are in the
scary.
Eastern Conference Final, up 1-0 here in Game 5, but they're down 3-1 in the series to the Tampa Bay Lightning.
But up 1-0 at intermission.
Oh,
After
they
the
did
first
go to
period.
intermission now. That's
Yes,
okay.
end of the first period.
There we go. But yeah, Tampa's road to get here, they beat the Columbus Blue Jackets in what was a revenge tour after that terrible collapse last year. The Lightning got swept by Columbus in the first round last year. They didn't want that to happen again this year, so they took care of business with Columbus this time, and they won that series in 5. Pretty easy series for them. As I said, they dominated the Boston Bruins. They won that series in 5 as well. And there's a chance, if they can come back here tonight, that they can also beat the New York Islanders in 5 games as well and play a total of 15 playoff games. This would be the Lightning's first Stanley Cup final appearance since 2015, which was 5 years ago. They lost to the Chicago Blackhawks, I believe, in 6 or 7. It was one or the other. They've looked like a great team this postseason. Assuming they don't blow this 3-1 lead, I think they're headed to the Stanley Cup final. Such a great team with players like Andre Palat. Steven Stamkos obviously was out this series dealing with an injury. Braden Point, he sat out Game 4, I believe, either Game 3 or Game 4. Tampa's just a great team. Andre Vasilevsky's been great in goal for them throughout the playoffs, and he's really been good throughout this series too against the Islanders. Unfortunate that the Islanders haven't scored a whole lot in some of these games. I mean, I'm happy for the Islanders. This is their first conference final since 1993. It's been a long wait for Islanders fans, and they still can, mount a 3-1 comeback. It's not impossible. It's been done before, not a lot of times, but this is playoff hockey. Anything can happen. Definitely,
It's definitely an uphill battle.
But and then quickly the Dallas Stars. I know we're running out of time already to get to the NBA, but the Dallas Stars, they defeated Calgary in 6 on their way here. That was a good series for them. Like I said, they beat Colorado in 7. That was a huge series win. And then Vegas could not respond in that series that they played. The Vegas Golden Knights against the Dallas Stars in that Western Conference Final series. Dallas dominated. And, Anton Hudobin was saving a lot of Vegas shots. And Vegas was getting 35, 40 shots a game. In almost every game, they just couldn't score. And it's frustrating when it's like that in hockey. And you're going to have nights like that. And that's what Vegas has to accept. But Dallas wins that series in 5, and they're headed to their first Stanley Cup final in 20 years. Likely, like we said, facing off against the Tampa Bay Lightning, unless the Islanders can come back down 3-1, which, like we said, not out of the realm of possibility necessarily. Dallas has been a shocker in the bubble. But I tell you, they've been in the playoffs recently, the last year or two. They made the second round last year, I'm pretty sure. I think they ended up losing to the Blues, from what I remember. But Miro Heiskanen, Dennis Gurianov, who scored that overtime goal in Game 5 to send them to the Cup final last night, they've been great for them throughout the whole series. Alexander Radulov is getting points on points night after night. Dallas has really thrown it together. Jamie Benn scored quite a few goals too. Dallas has a lot of great players that have shown up. Could they win the Cup final against Tampa? If they play Tampa, it's going to be tricky. But I think they have a shot against Tampa. Yes. I think Tampa's the better team. If it's the Islanders that somehow work their way into the Cup final, I think Dallas could beat the Islanders. I don't think.
Thanks. Really appreciate that.
I hate to bring it down for you, Kenny, but look, the Islanders have surprised us.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They've exceeded expectations by getting to the conference finals in this bubble scenario. And
but you wonder what would have happened if the coronavirus didn't happen.
Yeah,
where would they be right now?
Would they have even gotten?
Would they have
the
even made it to the playoffs?
That's
how they were playing.
But yes, they definitely needed that break. So either way, we will see the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup final. It will either be the New York Islanders or the Tampa Bay Lightning who will meet them. in what will be a very, very interesting situation. The battle for the COVID Stanley Cup from Edmonton. The Stanley Cup final will begin either Thursday, Saturday, or Monday. Likely on NBC, but could be on NBCSN.
Could be on USA.
No, it won't be on USA for that, but it'll be on either NBC or NBCSN to start for Game 1. Looking forward to it, whoever it is. Dallas against either Tampa or the New York Islanders. And then with what we have left, time for the NBA playoffs here. The first round, it was a mix. In the East, it was complete domination. In the West, we had some really, really close battles.
Yes.
In the East, Bucks beat the Magic in 5. The Heat swept the Pacers 4-0. Boston swept the 76ers 4-0. And then Toronto swept the Nets 4-0. Not really surprising out of the East. A little bit with the 76ers. But then again, they had no Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid, I believe, was out for a game. So that was tricky.
The other thing is with the obviously the Mavericks, the Magic Bucks series, you just knew, and obviously we'll touch upon it, how the Bucks just really did not look good in that series. And that definitely kind of foreshadowed their demise to the Miami Heat in the following round. They just didn't look right, especially losing game 1. I believe they did lose game 1, if I'm not mistaken. They did lose game 1 to the Magic.
Yes.
And that was without the Magic were without some of two of their key players.
I can't remember who it was. It was either Evan Fournier, I think, or Nikola Vucevic, something like that.
Yeah, so the Bucks just didn't look right. And obviously the Raptors, they just dominated. The Nets made it competitive at times, but you kind of knew the Raptors had it all the way. And obviously with the 76ers, they're just always underachieving. And, they never seem to take that next step. And obviously with Ben Simmons being out, that definitely was huge for that team. Joel Embiid tried to, carry the load, but it ultimately the Celtics were too much for them. So.
Yeah, exactly. And have to mention as well, we didn't really mention it in the hockey segment there, but before the Milwaukee Bucks and the Orlando Magic took the court for Game 5, they decided to protest the game, and neither team came out of the locker rooms. All to protest the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Unfortunately, one of multiple black deaths across the country that we've seen during this pandemic, unfortunately, with George Floyd, Jacob Blake. Our hearts go out to their families, of course. It's terrible that things like this keep happening in this great nation. And it's terrible. It really is. And hopefully there's, police reform somewhere that, we can help, police officers out in situations like this instead of, having, to cost people's lives in these situations. I don't want to get into it anymore, but I just had to mention that because it's just unfortunate. It really is. So everybody shut down for a couple days. A couple MLB teams postponed games. The NBA bubble shut down for 3-4 days. The NBA was in jeopardy, actually, of not restarting the bubble. But ultimately, after a big players meeting one night in one of the big ballrooms in Orlando, the NBA laid out plans for how to, help in the fight to end racism, and the players got on board with it, and we're back playing basketball and hockey and baseball, back to normal again. It was a short break, only 2-3 days across the sports world, but still a very significant event to happen here. But besides that, yeah, Kenny, you're right. The Milwaukee Bucks, they collapsed. They collapsed in that second round against Miami. Miami was hungry, and they jumped for sure. Bucks were lucky to get a game off of them, as it is. Now without Giannis, since he rolled his ankle in Game 4, and they were without him, for Game 5. What would have been if Giannis played Game 5? Who knows? We don't know. But Miami was still the better team. And they ended up winning that series 4-1. And here they are in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics, which is currently right now on ESPN. Celtics lead 97-92 with 5:25 left as Bam Adebayo misses a free throw for Miami. That's on ESPN. But the Boston Celtics, meanwhile, they were in a very tight series with the Toronto Raptors. Now, we remember, Kenny, back in Game 3 when OG Anunoby with 0.5 left, Raptors down 2, hits a game-winning 3. How
That was a
crazy is that?
series-changing shot. That really was. And I think
Celtics could have been up 3-0, and instead 2-1 Celtics.
And I think everybody pretty much knew that the series was definitely going to be very close after that shot. Because that could have easily... if he doesn't make that shot, the Celtics probably win that game in 4, possibly in 5 games.
They could have won that series easily, but instead it ended up going to 7. That was a huge shot that OG Anunoby hit in that series. And yeah, over in the West, like we said, some really interesting first round matchups. The Houston Rockets Oklahoma City Thunder series went to 7. The Denver Nuggets
coming back from 3-1
against the Utah Jazz. Yeah, the Jazz held a 3-1 lead.
How about Donovan Mitchell, though? Averaging
unbelievable.
Close to 40 points, just about.
Unbelievable, Donovan Mitchell is.
And they weren't able to seal the deal against the Nuggets. That definitely...
Yeah, that was disheartening for
him.
Utah. Yeah, for Utah in general. I had Utah upsetting Denver in that first round series, and now here they are in a Game 7 coming up in about 20 minutes on ESPN. It'll be the Nuggets and the Clippers. Game 7, the winner will meet the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. The Nuggets, they were also down 3-1 in this series. Can they come back from down 3-1 not once, but twice? Well, we're going to have to find out. That'll be coming up in a little bit.
We'll definitely be watching that once we get back to our suite.
Definitely. And the LA Clippers defeated the Dallas Mavericks in 6 games. That was also a really good series. Now, obviously, the Mavericks were without Kristaps Porzingis for a good amount of the series. So
but
again,
thank God for Luka.
Yeah, and it's another what if. Like, what if Porzingis was playing in that series? Could the Mavericks have upset the Clippers? I don't think so. I don't think they had all the pieces, to do it. The Clippers are just such a powerful team. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Patrick Beverley. It's a good team. The Clippers are a
very good team.
They've choked, really, though, the last 2 games here in the West.
Definitely.
In Game 5, they were up by 16, and they lost. In Game 6...
That was on Sunday, right?
Game 5 was Friday.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm thinking of Game 6.
Yeah, but Game 5 on Friday, they were up by 16, and they lost. Game 6 on Sunday, they were up by 16, and they lost. So those are 2 games.
I know. I mean, those 2 games,
the Clippers could have easily won.
Especially on Friday night. I mean, Jokic and Jamal Murray just hitting threes, like almost every possession was incredible.
Talk about
stretch
2
that
guys.
they went on.
Yeah, talk about 2 guys that have stepped up to the plate for this team.
Yeah.
Denver Murray, excuse me. Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic have really stepped up for Denver. That's what I was trying to say. Jamal Murray has had multiple 40-point games. I'm pretty sure he hit 50 against the Utah Jazz in either Game 6 or Game 7 as well. Denver's really stepped up to the plate, and I commend them for that. They have a great chance to beat the Clippers tonight in Game 7. Like I said, that's coming up after Heat Celtics on ESPN. I'm going to go with the Clippers, though, to win Game 7 tonight. It's going to be close, and Denver's going to do everything they can, like they have the last couple of games here. But everyone's wanted to see Lakers-Clippers from day one of the season. I think you're going to end up seeing Lakers-Clippers in the West Finals. And like I said, we'll see what happens here down the stretch. The Heat and the Celtics Game 1. Celtics are still up by 5 with 3:36 to go. It's 100 to 95 Celtics. So That's where we stand, though, right now in the NBA. Oh, and quickly, the Lakers, how they've gotten here. They defeated Portland in 5 and Houston in 5. Houston, not competitive. That team is never going to go anywhere. Mike D'Antoni is now gone. He decided to leave the team. Houston's in disarray, and the Lakers.
If it wasn't for like we were talking about past couple of days, if it wasn't for all those contracts that they have, just blow the team up at this point, because it does not seem like this team is going to contend for a championship.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that. I don't see it happening with James Harden and Russell Westbrook right now, even with those two at the helm. The Rockets live and die by the three, and when their 3-point shot isn't hitting, then they're not going to win those games. And ultimately, that was their downfall. But the Eastern Conference Finals, though, Heat Celtics game 1 tonight. That'll go on over the next week and a half, 2 weeks. And the Western Conference Final, it will be the LA Lakers against either the LA Clippers or Denver Nuggets. That series will start Friday night at 9 o'clock on TNT game 1. The NBA Finals at the earliest will start September 30th, but it could be either October 1st or 2nd. That's my guess. I'm not the NBA. I don't know all their dates. And like I said, the Stanley Cup Final could begin as early as Thursday, depending on if the Lightning win tonight. But obviously, if you're an Islanders fan out there, like Kenny, then you don't want that to happen. But either way, when we come back on the air the next week, Kenny, we will have a Stanley Cup Final report, week 2, that, you know what, sports are back. Yeah, and this is all we could have asked for right now. No fans for the most part, and you know what? It's okay. We're seeing intense, high-level action. I mean, if you're watching this Heat Celtics game right now, you really can't even tell. I mean, like, the players are going all out as Tyler Hero just hit a 3 for Miami, and it's a 3-point game now with 3 minutes left. Everybody's motivated. It's great. Sports are back. And you know what? We will get fans back in the arenas soon. Just not now. Let's carry on with what we have. Stay home. Watch the games on TV. It's great. Sports are back.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I'm with you on that too. I let's hope it continues. But that's all the time we got for tonight. Thank you for joining us. If you stayed with us for the full 2 hours, we really appreciate it. We'll be back next Tuesday, same time, same place, to talk about what happened in Week 2. Obviously, Stanley Cup matchup will be finalized by the time we get to next week. And obviously, the MLB playoffs is around the corner. The NBA conference finals are underway. So everything is looking pretty good in the sports world. So that's all the time we got for tonight. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. I'm Kenneth Grunfelder along with Ben Upson saying so long, have a good night, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next Tuesday, everybody.